All right, this morning we're glad to be joined in studio by Dion Schaaf, District Manager for the Foster County Soil Conservation District. Good morning, Dion.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Oh, just fine.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks, Dion, for joining us. And also, Paul DeBort is joining us. And Paul is the District Conservationist with the NRCS.
Yes, good morning, Greg. Thanks for having us in.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks, Paul, for joining us. And Paul, we'll get to you in just a second here. Dion, we're going to start things off with you. We got a garden tour to talk about.
It's a pollinator garden tour.
Okay.
Everybody's heard us talking about how concerned we are with the decline in the pollinators, and we want to point out things people can do to provide habitat for them in their backyard. And of course, the advantage to this is that if they have a garden, the pollinators will help their garden produce better at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the district's tree lot, which, if nobody's aware of it, there's a white Quonset and a blue metal shed at the corner of 14th Avenue and 3rd Street North. So Tuesday, August 23rd, we're going to start there at 7 p.m. and go into a few things there and visit a couple other gardens in Carrington and just look at some things that people can do that are going to promote pollinators, attract them to the garden, and give them habitat.
Okay. All right. So that's coming up, well, less than 3 weeks, right?
That's right. That's right. August 23rd.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And then you got some tree planting tips. Did you want to talk about that too?
Well, just a couple things. A lot of people come in, they don't have time to think about it to the winter, but this is a bit of a problem because it's really hard to plan when everything's under a foot of snow. Not to mention the fact that it's already getting kind of late to order some of the trees. The nurseries are already running out. So if you're considering doing some planting next year, we'd really urge you to come in and talk to us so we can take a look at your site, at your soils, figure out what trees you want, and then get them ordered when we can still get them for you. And also, if you're planning to do a renovation, there is a renovation program available through the North Dakota Forest Service. You just go to their website to do the pre-application, which is due August 15th. So if you're thinking about doing a renovation, you really need to get on there. If you're not familiar with the Forest Service website, there is a link to that from the district's website, which is fosterscd.org.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Dion. Paul, you're up next.
All right.
So, Paul, thanks for joining us here, District Conservationist with the NRCS. Paul, you're going to be talking about some resources for your farm and ranch. Maybe identify some resources this morning, right?
Yeah, one of the things that NRCS, from our very, origins back in the 30s, our agency's always been a technical agency, one where, we didn't always have farm bill program, payment opportunities. And we really hung our hat on being technical resource experts. And, we were able to get out onto the land and work with farmers and ranchers to help them identify, potential issues or help them remedy some of the issues that they've identified. And, this year's been pretty, what would you say, extreme with the weather. We started out so hot and dry. It looked like we were in for a heck of a drought, and that was what was all the talk. And then things shifted and didn't turn out that way. So it's one of those things where Mother Nature's always going to throw us curveballs, and the better of a plan we can have in place, whether it's water quality and quantity, having livestock water available. That's been a big issue in some parts of the county, and I know that some people probably listening thinking I'm crazy because they're sitting with way too much water, but it just depends on where you're at. And I think the bottom line is having a plan and whether it's us or it yourself, but identifying those things and seeking out opportunities to remedy that. We take great pride in being able to come out and work with our farmers and ranchers. They're the best in the world, in my opinion. So it's not anything where we're out pointing fingers or anything like that. It's just simply, hey, what can we help you with to try to find a solution to? And it's a learning experience both ways. I learned just as much from working with them out on their operation as they ever will from me. So it's good. If I don't have the answers, I have a lot of knowledgeable people, counterparts that I can pull the audience and ask and find out. So if there's things like that that are saline soils, that's a big thing, holding back production. I think it's something that it's easy to try to remedy that with like drain tile, for example. But sometimes, the real issue is compaction. And if the water can't infiltrate to that tile, it's kind of money wasted. But sometimes it is a groundwater issue, and that's where tile can really be a benefit. So, and there's many other things. Those are just a couple off the top of my head. The pastures and rangeland, that's something that the drought really exposes, and that's what we always just emphasize to try to. It may not seem important right now, but the time comes, and it's come this year for a few folks, to try to get that water out there. Better quality water will always return in animal performance, calf gain, so it doesn't take long to reap those rewards or gain back that investment.
Now, going back to the saline issue, it seems like it's always kind of been there. It's always been an issue. In recent years, is it getting worse or better?
It's definitely worse.
Okay.
In our soil survey department, they've identified, I don't know how many thousands of acres that get lost to it each year. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like we know the principles that can remedy it, but adopting those management techniques is a little harder to do. And I say that because we know that reducing tillage, growing a plant longer throughout the growing season, like seeding a cover crop after now like wheat or small grain harvest, we're using moisture later in the year when we've never done that. If you think about our crop rotations, corn and beans, we're done using any moisture come the first part of September. And we sit with our soils getting saturated long after that. And so if we can open up that soil profile with a living plant and a cover crop, or in that regard, and then also leaving that structure, that root structure intact to infiltrate water through no-till, and whether it's no-till or whether it's just reducing tillage, we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. But there's always hurdles, there's always things that we need to overcome. You don't just all of a sudden change everything in one day. It takes a process, and there's all kinds of data out there to help alleviate some of those hurdles and overcome that and bypass some of that. But everyone's operation is different, and everybody's situation is different, and that's what we recognize when we're out with that person. And so again, coming back to identifying what the cause is. Is it compaction? Is it inherently saline soils? Just like, I'm never going to be 6'4". Some soils just are inherently saline. And so when we go and affect them through cropping, that exposes them. And that's what happens. And so we're finding that there's a lot of areas that just are becoming more and more saline as a result of a cropping system. And so there are just alternatives to help fix that. And like I said, cover crops and reducing tillage are the two things that are going to get you on the right track.
Yeah, I think like this year, like you said, we had a drought, then we're wet, and it's these little strong cells producing a lot of rain in a little area. Yep. Overall, as far as like our Foster County, for example, or maybe our neighboring counties, as far as pasture, what's it looking like out there? Dry, wet,
I think, again, it's just like you said, it depends on your spot. I think overall, we're in good shape. We did have a period there in June into July where we didn't get a lot, anything west of Carrington was sitting so dry. Mm-hmm. We farm over in Wells County, and I couldn't buy a rain. I mean, it was getting to be pretty, drastic over there. But it just seems like no matter what you do with investing in water quality or quantity, and meaning, digging a well, putting out tanks to provide that, it's never a bad thing. And you know, whether a person wants to participate in a program or that's the last thing they want to do, we can help design that for them. We can do all the engineering, the survey work, the estimates of the quantities needed for their herd size, do all the technical aspects of it, and they can decide then if they want to participate in a program, if that's right for them. And if that is, you know, there's some, our EQIP program pays a lot of the costs of installing water. So that's been really nice and rewarding, I guess you could say, to be able to get that stuff out there for people. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Paul. Dion, did you have anything else this morning?
Just the two things, August 23rd for
Okay.
the Pollinaire Garden Tour, August 15th for the deadline on that renovation program if you want to go through that. And please just come in anytime if you want to talk to us, if you have questions, if you have ideas. That's what we're there for. We're here to help.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Dion. Paul, anything
Yeah.
else this morning?
Just keep us in mind as you're in the combines, and good luck to everybody with harvest underway. Keep us in mind for an invite to come out to the farm or ranch and just to have a simple conversation like we used to be able to do. Seems like the fast pace of things, it kind of hard to do that nowadays, but
Yep.
but we're always willing and able to come out.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks, you guys. We always appreciate you stopping in. Have a good day. So.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks. And that was, we're glad to be joined in studio this morning by Dion Schaff, District Manager for the Foster County Soil Conservation District, and Paul DeBort, District Conservationist with the NRCS. That concludes another edition of Here's What's Happening on KDAK.